Hello and welcome. Tonight, PDP vows to reunite Nigerians and move the country forward as it kicks off its presidential campaign in Akwa Ibom State. Wike-led camp of the party absent from campaign flag-off. Women wing of the APC gets marching order to sustain party's victory run at the inauguration of women wing of the Tinubu-Shatima presidential campaign team in Abuja. Southern Kaduna Leadership Council presents charter for political engagement with politicians, vows not to blindly support those seeking political offices in the state. And the Academic Staff Union of Universities hints at a possible end to its over 7-month-old strike in a few days.
On business news tonight, Nigerian independent petroleum company NIPCO buys majority stake in Abuja Sheraton Hotels' parent company Capital Hotels PLC in a landmark acquisition deal.
On sports news tonight, Atletico Madrid re-signed France forward Antoine Griezmann from FC Barcelona on a permanent deal.
And from Abuja, the long queues resurface at petrol stations in Abuja following scarcity of the product. Residents attribute the development to the flooding of the Lokoja-Abuja road.
And in international news from London, citizens across Ukraine are clearing up after a day of Russian missile strikes caused widespread death and damage in cities up and down the country.
It's now down to serious business for the People's Democratic Party, which today kicked off its presidential campaign in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom state capital, ahead of next year's elections. At the event, which attracted a massive crowd of party supporters, the PDP leaders vowed to ensure unity in the country. They maintain that the campaign flag-off set the tone for national restoration as the party's records speak for itself in comparison to what is obtainable in today's Nigeria. However, governors and leaders in the Wike-led camp of the party were conspicuously absent from the gathering.
The nest of champions packed with thousands of colorfully dressed People's Democratic Party supporters from across the country, including party chieftains, women and youth groups, among others, for the official flag-off of the party's presidential campaign in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom state capital. Serving and former governors, members of the National Working Committee and Board of Trustees, among others, are here to make a case for their party's candidate ahead of next year's elections, as the host governor and chairman of the campaign council, Udomi Manuel, believes their performance should count for something.
Are you better off today than in 2015? When PDP handed over power to the other party, poverty today has gotten to misery indices. Are you safe in your homes today? The answer is no.
Stakeholders of the party take turns to persuade Nigerians to vote for the PDP.
In the past, we used to say no vacancy in ASUU, but today Nigerians have seen, the youths, the women, they have seen that there is indeed vacancy in ASUU.
This ticket of Atiku Okowa has recognized the plurality and diversity of Nigeria, and we have respected our character as a nation, and our party is presenting forth these two great Nigerians that have the capacity, the character, the competence to move the country forward.
For the party's national chairman, it is time to close ranks. But first, the mini silence is observed in honor of the party's former national chairman, Vincent Obolafo.
We want every member of the PDP family on board. Nigeria is not interested in our personal quarrels. Nigerians are waiting for the PDP to come and rescue them from what is worrying them.
The PDP's vice presidential candidate, ECOWAS, says the party is open to more effective, innovative way to ensure national security.
When we have stronger states and
local governments that are more functional with enough resources, then we can develop together. And that is very key. And he has promised. The only one bold enough to promise that he's going to ensure that we'll have a state police.
PDP, clap your hands. If you love Atiku, clap your hands. If you love Okowa, and you will vote PDP. If you love Atiku, clap your hands.
The party's presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar promises a better future for Nigerians if elected, which motivates him to embark on a rescue mission.
When PDP came to power in 1999, we met Nigeria in a state of poverty, insecurity, hunger, lack of education. We lifted Nigeria from the bottom to the top. We became the biggest economy in Africa. We had peace, we had progress.
The coming days will witness exercise of this nature around the country to get the buy-in of Nigerians for their votes as the PDP continues its reconciliation move with aggrieved members who are apparently absent here.
And while the PDP was kicking off its presidential campaign in Akwa Ibom, the ruling All Progressives Congress was also busy in the nation's capital, inaugurating the women wing of the Tinubu-Shetima campaign team. At the event, the Chief of Staff to the President, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, applauded the role of women in ensuring the victory of the APC in 2015 and 2019 and asked them to sustain the victory run ahead of the 2023 general elections. The occasion was attended by APC presidential candidate and his running mate, as well as other leaders of the party.
The banquet hall of the presidential villa is filled to capacity as women gather in their numbers, singing ahead of the inauguration of the Tinubu-Shetima Women Presidential Campaign Team. With the arrival of the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, the atmosphere is thrown into a frenzy. The national women leader of the party takes to the podium with a call on the female folk to deliver the presidency in 2023.
This is a charge to all women. Let it not end at an inauguration. This election lies in our hands. Let's go out there, door to door, street to street, from your children to the young ones, to the women, to the old ones. We must deliver our mandate.
The wife of the president and chairperson of the campaign team share their thoughts on women participation in politics.
For the third time since 2015, women and youth under the banner of All Progressive Congress have changed the pattern of electioneering campaign by leading a distinct exercise based on their priorities, preferences, aspirations, and world outlook.
When women are united, wonderful things happen. And I have immense confidence in the ability of the amazing team assembled here today to secure the women's vote for APC.
For the presidential candidate of the party, it's time to break the shackles of poverty and insecurity as he urges Nigerians to hope for a better country.
Let me say one thing. Help is here. Hope is here. Assurance is here. Promise is here. Prosperity is here. Health is here. Security is here. Banditry has ended.
The message of hope by the APC presidential flag bearer resonates with the Chief of Staff to President Buhari, who applauds the role of women in the successes recorded by the party.
Her unwavering commitment to mobilizing women significantly influenced our party's victory in the 2015 and 2019 presidential elections. This great feat could not have been achieved without the support of the women of our party.
Although the Presidential Campaign Council of the APC is yet to unveil its manifesto, the women are optimistic that the Tinubu-Shettima candidacy remains the best option for Nigerians.
Still talking politics, the Accord Party's presidential candidate, Professor Christopher Imumole, has been speaking about his achievements and giving reasons why he should be elected as president. Professor Imumole, who was in Kano to interact with his supporters, promised to unite the country considering the current division along ethnic and religious lines. The Accord Party supporters believe that the Accord Party flag bearer possesses what it takes to move the country forward.
We have gotten to a point where we don't need to select our leaders based on religion, based on location, but based on capacity and competence. If you know you are in this hall and you are already enjoying my scholarship in North, can I see your hand up? You can see. These are people that are already impacted by Professor Christopher. I'm not from the north. I am a Nigerian like you. Yet I've been able to create a system that have impacted every Nigerian. Even in this hall, you can see people, many of them have not seen them, but they are also beneficiary of the Professor Christopher Scholarship. I am the only candidate that have touched the life of Nigerians, even when I'm not holding power. I am the only candidate that have empowered through scholarship more than 500,000 Nigerians. Privately, with my private funds, we have been doing this for the past 15 years. For you to know the leader that will take you to the next level, it must be a leader that has passion and value for Nigerians.
Staying with the 2023 general elections, the Southern Kaduna Leadership Council has presented what they term a socio-political charter for political engagements with those seeking executive and legislative offices in the state. The council, which lamented the marginalization of zones by successive administrations at both state and federal levels, explains that the people of Southern Kaduna will not make a blind support for politicians in 2023, but will only vote for candidates who will address their socio-economic challenges. The group says they are moving to change the narrative and give the people of the area a sense of direction.
Almost all of us here have served Nigeria, but sometimes we come to ask ourselves, what has been our reward for serving Nigeria? We have watched states being created. We've watched local governments being created. We've watched constituencies being created. Sometimes, honestly, we're left out. Where are we going to? What do we hope to achieve? If I have not been lucky enough to enjoy, should my grandson not enjoy? And who is going to determine whether my grandson enjoys or not? It is you and I who are here today who will now determine whether my grandchild is going to work to enjoy Nigeria or not. So we sat down, a few of us, and looked at the whole activities, political activities in Southern Kaduna for a very long time and discovered that there has been a glitch. There is a problem that has prevented us from getting to where we want to. And that problem is our togetherness. We are not working together.
In part two, after the break, the Academic Staff Union of Universities hints at a possible end to its over 7-month-old strike in a few days. Please stay with us. just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, coming to you live on Channels Television. A reminder of our top stories. People's Democratic Party vows to reunite Nigerians and move the country forward as it kicks off its presidential campaign in Akwa Ibom State. Wike-led camp of the party absent from campaign flag-off. Women wing of the All Progressives Congress gets marching orders to sustain party's victory run at the inauguration of women wing of the Tinubu-Shettima presidential campaign team in Abuja. Southern Kaduna Leadership Council presents charter for political engagements with politicians, vows not to blindly support those seeking political offices in the state. The Academic Staff Union of Universities hints at a possible end to its over 7-month-old strike in a few days. Staying with activities ahead of the general elections, prominent Nigerians have been expressing concern about the actions of politicians that could jeopardize the nation's unity. One of the latest voices on the issue is that of the Primate and Archbishop of the Anglican Communion, Most Reverend Henry Ndukuba, who is urging politicians not to make their quest for power a do-or-die affair, but focus on issue-based campaigns. The Clerical was speaking during a wedding ceremony in Abuja, also appealed to INEC to ensure that every vote counts in the forthcoming polls.
Outstanding politicians in this nation had always said, politics without bitterness. And we are believing God that if you do not win in 2023, the forthcoming opportunity may be yours. It is not a do-or-die affair. The life of every Nigerian matters. And therefore, we want to plead with you, do the campaign without violence, without attacks on each other. And we are pledging that we will uphold you in prayers. Our desire is that Nigeria will be better and God will raise a team of leaders who will be God-fearing, who will appreciate the life of the ordinary citizens, and who will live with integrity and stand by what they say. So we want to plead with you, because if Nigeria burns, you are also involved.
And to education, some cherry news on the ongoing strike by university lecturers, as the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, has given a hint of possible end to the industrial action in a few days. This indication was given by the ASUU president, Professor Emmanuel Osodeke, during a meeting with the leadership of the House of Representatives in Abuja. The meeting comes after the leadership of the House met with the president and submitted its proposals and white paper, which it believes would be favorable to both parties in dispute. Members of the House of Representatives have been meeting with concerned stakeholders to address the matter. The ASUU president, who appreciated the House for its efforts, appealed that future strikes should not be allowed to linger this long. To other stories, a vessel which was used in stealing the nation's crude has been set ablaze along the Warri River by men of the Nigerian military who are tracking the illegal activities in the Niger Delta. They said the action is to send warning signals to other perpetrators of what awaits them if found. The vessel was intercepted with a 600 cubic meter of the product logged in 5 of its 12 compartments. The crew on board the vessel have been arrested and handed over to government security agents. The vessel, named MT Dama and registered with the International Maritime Organization number, was ambushed while loading illegal crude oil today in the Warri area. We go over now to Kogi State, where the House of Assembly is in ruins following the fire that engulfed part of the assembly complex at Krishna area in Lokoja, the state capital, earlier today. The fire ripped through the roof of the chamber, causing extensive damage to the floor of the House. It is unclear what was responsible for it. The Speaker of the House, Mr. Matthew Kolawole, and the state's Deputy Governor were among the early callers at the scene to assess the extent of damage.
see that the whole chamber is gone completely and some part of the offices. So, but we are lucky that some part of office too was not really affected. But what the main impact of the fire is on the chamber and some offices that are close to the chamber. Everything is gone completely. For now, we can't really tell you exactly what has got missed in the house. Is there anything is burnt that has to do with related matter? But sincerely speaking, what has happened has not stopped the House of Assembly from performing our legislative function. So, and we are moving on.
When fire incidents happen globally, or any incidents that is untoward, we first detailed investigations by experts and the security agencies. As we speak, they have been directed to do that, and they will come out with their findings. Just the furnitures and the internal part of the chambers got burnt. All documents in the Kogi State Assembly is safe, and it is in a secured environment as we speak. So that's aside. So if the fire incident was for any purpose of destroying facts and documentations, I think it failed in that regard.
We're off to Abuja now for more stories. Makwe Ogun Yusuf is standing by. Hi, Makwe. Good to see you.
Hello, Millicent. It's good to see you as well. But residents in the Federal Capital Territory have something to contend with, as long queues have now resurfaced at petrol stations in Abuja metropolis as motorists spend hours on the queue to buy petrol, also known as premium motor spirit. The cause of the scarcity this time is not the usual action by workers in the oil sector, but is attributed largely to the flooding of major parts of Lokoja, the Kogi State capital, which has made it difficult for haulage trucks to move between northern and southern parts of Nigeria.
Residents of Lokoja, the Kogi State capital, have been grappling with flooding that has ravaged many parts of the state. Petrol tankers are stuck, goods and services all taking a hit. Incidentally, the effect resonates beyond the state. One of the many places impacted is this NNPC petrol station located at ASUU. It is now a beehive of activity as motorists queue in a long file to get petrol. The gates are opened and motorists make a dash in an attempt to beat the queue. Motorists patiently take turns to be served. Some of them speak on their experience and proffer solutions.
I think what the federal government should do about this is that they should look for alternative, bank to store fuel. Like in Kaduna, there's a depot where fuel should be stored. We shouldn't rely on just one supply chain.
It's the same situation at this NNPC petrol station located at Lugbe Airport Road. One cannot tell the length of this seemingly unending queue as motorists here wait patiently to be attended to. A tanker drives in with the fuel just in time. And that notwithstanding, some motorists explore the option of buying from roadside fuel hawkers, but at a high cost.
10 liters is 3,000 naira. We are to buy from filling station. 10 liters is about 1,730 naira, depending on the amount the filling station is selling.
The same applies to this filling station visited by our correspondent. This passenger is delighted that the transport fare remains the same despite the scarcity, but some drivers are killjoy.
It's still the same fare from Lugbe here to Bega, 250.
Okay, so there's no increase?
No increase.
Today is a public holiday, so tomorrow is a working day. So we are going to increase it to 300 naira.
As motorists grapple with the current realities, residents in the nation's capital are hoping that the federal government will find a lasting solution to the issue of flooding to avoid a recurrence and save the residents the unnecessary and painful experience of waiting in long queues all day for fuel.
Well, the scarcity of petrol notwithstanding, multilateral meetings went on as planned right here in Abuja. One of them is that of the Economic Community of West Africa States, which held its coordination meeting in Abuja. The federal government of Nigeria said governments in West Africa need to implement laws and scale up investments targeted at protecting the environment in the sub-region. It was part of the resolutions reached ahead of the December conference of the parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity, COP15, holding in Montreal, Canada.
Thank you very much.
Officials of the Federal Ministry of Environment and representatives of ECOWAS are holding this meeting in Abuja to discuss regional priority interests in global efforts to save the environment. Participants highlight the expectations from this meeting, which is holding ahead of the forthcoming conference of parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity, COP15, in Canada later this year.
WABILED and ECOWAS urge you to use this platform to come up with products that show the world that ambitions and leadership come from West Africa. Over the next 3 days, you are all expected to brainstorm and come up with common positions around the key discussion points.
The COP15, which will hold in Canada in December this year, will brainstorm on solutions to the problems of biodiversity and climate change, a situation that the Ministry of Environment say is already a challenge in Nigeria that needs urgent attention.
We all are aware that the world's ecosystem and biodiversity are deteriorating at an alarming rate. If we do not act, we soon may reach tipping points that may cause irreversible destruction to nature.
Reports of flooding and sometimes droughts sweep across the country, as well as other ECOWAS member states. Hence the call on regional governments to implement laws and scale up investments that are targeted towards protecting the environment.
We need to invest in conservation, and pursuing any development without considering conservation will ultimately undermine our ability as a continent to prosper.
The main important aspect is to strengthen the governance. It means that all the member states should update the national law regulation related to biodiversity conservation.
More than ever before, the effects of climate change and the ecosystem degradation is becoming more visible on a daily basis as experts continue advising on the need to take drastic steps to save the environment.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Nigerian Independent Petroleum Company buys majority stake in Abuja Sheraton Hotel's parent company, that's the parent company Capital Hotels. So stay with us. Welcome back to the news at 10. The Vice President is asking industry stakeholders in the digital economic space to leverage the many advantages in the new Web3, like artificial intelligence, blockchain, and NFT, to create jobs for the teeming youths in the country. He also believes that government agencies can further digitize their services, thereby making them easily accessible to Nigerians. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo was speaking at the third edition of the Nigeria Digital Economy Summit in Abuja, where he called for the creation of an ecosystem that will enable startups thrive.
Look at what companies can do. There's just so much to do so much. And so this microcredit for informal traders, which is a trader money, market money thing, of course, the world is not able to build that platform at the time. But then there are so many other platforms that must be built, so many other services that are completely digital. So the whole range of government services will provide excellent opportunities for innovation. 3D, as I'm sure everyone here will agree, is a big part of Web3. It is its own fiber, if you like, of metaverse. In a few short years, metaverse will enable me to sit and study virtually in the library of the Institute of Advanced Legal Studies in London, where I usually go and bring all these photocopies for research back home. So it will be possible for me to virtually, actually, sit toward the library, see for myself, actually immerse, as it were, in that whole library experience if I wish. So there are things that will happen that are just going to be completely astonishing in the way that they're going to transform the way we research, for those of us who are interested in research, the way we do commerce, the way we do practically everything that we do. It's impossible today to imagine what Web3 will mean for education, for agriculture, for medicine, for industry.
Nigeria's Vice President, Professor Yemi Oshibajo. As part of the steps towards addressing issues regarding the girl child, the Ministry of Women Affairs has announced the creation of a division in the ministry to cater for their concerns across the country. The director in charge of child development at the ministry, Mr. Ali Madugu, explains that the federal government is seeking ways of upholding the rights of girls via the adoption of policies and appropriations needed to alleviate their plight. He was speaking at an event in Abuja ahead of the International Day of the Girl Child.
Globally, October the 11th is set aside annually by the United Nations to raise awareness on the rights of girls. In Nigeria, an international civil society organization called Plan International is meeting with key experts to form a collaboration that will help uphold the rights of girls through sound policies, and they're kicking off with a 5-year plan. According to the organization, the 5-year policy aims at empowering 200 million girls across the world with knowledge of their rights.
Whatever it is we do in Nigeria going forward, we will have young people significantly influence, engage, and be part of our strategy going forward. This is a commitment.
The 2022 International Day of the Girl Child is themed, "Our time is now, our rights, our future." The challenges confronting the girl child cuts across most sectors of the economy as they bear the brunt of hardships, especially in times of insecurity, climate change, hunger, and poor health indices. More so, with statistics from the United Nations indicating that 4,000 girls in sub-Saharan Africa are infected with HIV daily.
We need to create a network of young people, a network of volunteers, a network of champions and activists. We need to create partnership. And I'm delighted that we have partners that joined us yesterday and joined us today as well, and the subsequent days, and encouraging the team in Nigeria to ensure that in whatever we do, that we create those partnerships to help us achieve our strategy.
The 5-year policy, which is to commence from 2022 to 2027, is launched with expectations that the federal government will key into the plan to empower girls, and it appears that the government is ready.
This collaboration is one of the important initiatives that the ministry is pleased to collaborate with them, because right from the inception, they were carrying us along, and we have been having meetings with them, and they brought out all that they wanted to do. And we can see that they are not also concerned with only the Nigerian girls, but they are trying to expose them to the international issues that are happening with girls.
It's cheering news for young girls, as upholding their rights has been a major issue that has been on the front burner of public discourse for some time now.
And that's all from Abuja. It's back now to you, Millicent.
Thank you, Mark. We continue with security here, where troops of the 159th Battalion of the Nigerian Army in Yobe State have intercepted 98 blocks of suspected cannabis sativa estimated at 5 million naira, while handing over the products to the Nigeria Drugs Law Enforcement Agency in the state. The Chief of Staff to Sector 2 Operation Hadinke de Maturu, Brigadier General Umar Mwazu, said the culprits abandoned the contraband after sighting the Army patrol team. Meanwhile, the council headquarters of Ezan North, local government area of Ebonyi State, came under attack in the early hours of today. Spokesman of the State Command of the Nigeria Police Force, Chris Anyanwu, told Channels Television in Abakaliki that the attack was carried out by hoodlums. The newly sworn-in chairman of the council, Mr. Ogodali Nome, also corroborated the police account, adding that the hoodlums in their numbers set the store housing some electro materials ablaze. It was also gathered that the hoodlums forced their way into some of the offices where vital documents were kept, carting some away while setting the remaining alight. According to the police, an investigation has been launched to get to the root of the matter and arrest those behind it. Another story is the 14th edition of the Arise Women Conference will focus on women and youth development in Nigeria, and that's according to the convener, Dr. Mrs. Shiju Iliomade. Speaking at a press briefing in Lagos ahead of the conference, she explains that the nation's youth are at the core of modern development and should be given the opportunity to change the country's current trajectory.
For many nations, the drive to achieve the United Nations Sustainable Goals has led to endless partnerships across board with great human benefits, as giving back to the community has become a recurring activity for many organizations, irrespective of what sector of the economy it transacts its business within. At the moment, Arise, a non-denominational charity group, says it's keen on developing lacking facilities for communities.
How responsive are we in this nation to the needs of our people? How responsive are we to the survival of Nigeria as a nation or as a country? Are we ready to see our people continue to suffer? Are we ready to see my neighbor not eat? Am I happy to see that little child go to bed in hunger? That is not the motto of Arise. Wherever there is a need, Arise will step in. We step in and we provide succor as much as we can.
The vision of the NGO is focused on making quantum influence in healthcare, skills acquisition, education, and leadership. The convener speaks on the continuous rise of exports of human capability from Nigeria to other countries.
Youth should stop seeking menial jobs. Let us explore and push the capacity of our brain. Let us think more. Let us be more innovative. The youth should please come in and put their feet on the ground and develop this country.
She further speaks on the impact she hopes to achieve in the future.
Today, and I'm very happy to be able to help somebody. I'm building hospitals, I'm building libraries, I'm finding like-minded people to please come and help my communities. Come and help people I don't even know. And it is detribalized. There's nothing about religion. It is about compassion.
The call for more compassion towards each other in Nigeria is at the core of this media parley to enlighten practitioners on the impact of the Arise NGO as it gears up for a lineup of activities culminating with a cluster walk on the 15th of October and a soccer match on the 16th.
We now switch for some business news. Here's Anne Wilder. Thank you, Millicent. Hello and welcome to Business News. Nigerian independent petroleum company NIPCO PLC has announced the acquisition of a 51% majority stake in Capital Hotels PLC, owners of the iconic Sheraton Hotel Abuja. And this is coming less than 5 years after NIPCO acquired Mobil Oil Nigeria PLC, which is now known as Double One PLC. The statement issued by the company says the deal, which was sealed through its fully owned subsidiary, 22 Hospitality Limited, is part of the concerted efforts of the integrated downstream operator to diversify into the nation's hospitality sector. NIPCO further says that this strategic drive is also aimed at making the hotel carve a niche for itself by becoming a leading hospitality firm, offering premium service to customers in accordance with global standards. In Nigeria's crude oil sector, production has extended its decline to an average of 937.7 barrels per day in the month of September, and that's according to the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission. In its latest crude oil and condensate production data for the period, the NUPRC says the production figure is 3.5%, and that's about 34.6 barrels per day lower when compared to the 972.3 barrels per day output recorded in the month of August. The latest figure, which represents the third consecutive decline in the country's crude oil production, is also lower than the 1.8 million barrels per day production quota set by the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. And still talking oil, prices fell today by about 1% on fresh concerns by investors over a global recession, stronger dollar, and of course erosion of fuel demand against potentially tight supply. Brent crude futures fell by 1% to $96.9 a barrel, and that's while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude declined by 0.8% to $91.9 a barrel. Meanwhile, recent data shows that service activities in China and the month of September contracted for the first time in 4 months as COVID-19 restrictions hit demand and business confidence. The slowdown in China, that's the world's second largest oil producer behind the United States, adds the growing concern over a possible global recession triggered by numerous central banks raising interest rates to combat high inflation. And still on the economy, Nigeria's foreign exchange reserves have dropped to the lowest level in 3 months, as it decreased by $153.5 million week on week to about $38.1 million as of October the 6th. The latest decline to external buffers is coming just a few days after the central bank paid part of foreign airlines' trapped funds. The FX reserves, which gave the CBN the firepower to defend the naira, declined to $38.6 billion as of August the 14th, down from $40.52 billion at the end of December last year. And that's despite oil prices this year. Nigeria's foreign exchange reserve has been depleted by billions of dollars. And that's business news for tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. The rest of the news at 10 continues now with Millicent. Thank you, Anne. To some international stories, Russia has been widely condemned after bombing cities across Ukraine, including launching missile strikes on the center of Kyiv for the first time. The U.S. said brutal attacks had hit non-military targets and promised ongoing military aid, including advanced air defense systems. Simon Pusi has more in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Citizens across Ukraine are clearing up after a day of Russian missile strikes which caused widespread death and damage in cities up and down the country. This the scene at a square in central Kyiv. It's the first time the capital has been targeted in months and marks a significant escalation in the conflict. Ukraine says 11 people have been killed across the country, with many more injured in the blasts. Here, a pedestrian on Kiev's Klitschko Bridge narrowly escaping this morning when a missile hit the popular walkway. The mayor of Zaporizhia said 7 Russian missiles hit the city in the early morning hours of Monday, killing at least 1 person. Multiple explosions hit Dnipro, a city in southeastern Ukraine, killing at least 4 people. While plumes of smoke were also seen in Lviv. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said the attacks were deliberately timed to kill people, as well as to knock out Ukraine's power grid. Here, the cleanup beginning in Kyiv. Citizens in the capital rebuilding after a frenzied few hours of strikes.
More weapons, what Ukraine definitely needs, but also we see that Ukraine also needs humanitarian aids. They need equipment for soldiers.
A Latvian defense official visiting the scene of a missile attack site in Kiev had to cut short her interview when air raid sirens sounded.
So the fear is that this could trigger a very strong Russian response. We saw yesterday that a residential area of the city of Zaporizhia, a major...
And here a reporter taking cover as explosions are heard nearby.
More than a dozen. So
Kiev's mayor accused Russia of waging a war on the Ukrainian people.
This attack have total different emotion of our citizens. People is angry and want to defend our houses, defend our families, our children.
The European Union said that Russian attacks on civilians in Ukraine amounted to a war crime, and countries like Poland are pushing for further sanctions.
I am shocked and appalled by the vicious attack on Kiev and other Ukrainian cities. Russia once again has shown to the world what it stands for. It is terror and brutality. Those who are responsible have to be held accountable.
The Russian president says Monday's widespread Russian strikes on Ukraine was a retaliation for Saturday's attack on a key bridge.
Vladimir
Putin said he had ordered the massive long-range strikes and threatened more strikes in future if Ukraine hits Russian territory. He said Ukraine was behind the attack on the bridge that badly damaged the only link between Russia and occupied Crimea, a key route for military supplies for the war. At least 22 people have died and 52 are missing after 5 small rivers in central Venezuela flooded due to heavy rains. The downpour on Saturday night swept large tree trunks and debris from surrounding mountains into the community of Tajerias, 40 miles southwest of Caracas, damaging businesses and farmland. The vice president said the priority was to locate people still trapped under mud and rocks throughout the town, while military and rescue personnel also searched the riverbanks for survivors. And Kanye West has been locked out of his Twitter and Instagram accounts after posting anti-Semitic messages. The star had his Instagram account suspended at the weekend after accusing rapper Diddy of being controlled by Jewish people. The message played into a long-standing anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. West responded to his suspension by rejoining Twitter and posting a similar message, earning him a second disbarment. Both platforms removed West's posts and said the star had violated policies on hate speech. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.
Thanks, Simon. Ayotunde Balogun is back with sports this Monday.
Many thanks, and Millicent. Welcome to Sports News. Nigeria's campaign at the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup in India begins tomorrow with an uphill task as they face Germany in their first group game. Coach Bankole Oluwakere's girls will start the tournament with a clash with one of the strongest teams in female football. Well, the Group B game will be played at Pandit Jawaharlal Stadium in Goa, 4 p.m. Nigerian time. After a 10-day training camp in the Turkish city of Kocaeli and an impressive African qualifying campaign, the Flamingos are ready to take on the world in the 7th edition of the biennial tournament. In Spain, Atletico Madrid Football Club have re-signed Antoine Griezmann from FC Barcelona on a permanent deal. Now the French footballer has signed a contract that keeps him at the club until 2026. Griezmann rejoined the Rojiblancos Atletico on loan from FC Barca in August 2021, and his temporary deal was extended for this season in the summer. Paris Saint-Germain forward Lionel Messi will not be involved against SL Benfica after failing to recover from a calf injury in time for the Champions League group stage game. And Messi had missed the weekend's Ligue 1 draw against Stade de Reims, in which table toppers PSG failed to score in the league for the first time this season. But the 35-year-old had asked to be withdrawn in the reverse fixture at Benfica last week due to the calf problem. As part of ways to celebrate the anticipated kickoff of the FIFA World Cup, a stone replica of the tournament's iconic trophy has been unveiled in Qatar. Now, the stone replica weighs in and around 5 tons and towering at a height of 3 meters. Now, the sculpture, which took 2 years to complete, now lies in Hamad Al Suwaidi's backyard. Now, the plans, or Al Suwaidi's plans to put it on public display during the month-long event is already in the show. And that's Sports News. I'm Ayotunde Balogun.
And the main news again. The People's Democratic Party today kicked off its presidential campaign in Akwa Ibom State, where the party leaders vowed to reunite Nigerians and move the country forward. However, the Wike-led camp of the party was conspicuously absent from the campaign flag-off. Also today, the women wing of the All Progressives Congress got a marching order to sustain the party's victory run during the inauguration of the women wing of the Tinubu-Shettima presidential campaign team in the nation's capital. That's your news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Have a good night and stay safe.